An item that was stolen from the Rochester Museum and Science Center more than 50 years ago is being returned this week, not by the person who stole it, but by someone who knows the story. And as Doug Embers tells us, wants to make sure there's a happy ending.
Behind the scenes at RMSC, Elizabeth Pietrkowski works with a vast collection. It includes displays like this and artifacts of Native American life in what is now Western New York. But when this vest was stolen from the museum in the late 1960s, her mother was 7 years old.
There is no staff that's currently working here from that time, so it was a little bit of looking through our records to see what we could find. I was able to find a record, internal record that referred to a theft.
More than 50 years later, the person who's righting the old wrong is none other than Rochester radio legend, Brother Wease.
Some friends of mine in 1968 stole this vest.
And those friends sent it to Wease, who was living in Philadelphia at the time with his first wife.
And I, of course, at my age, had forgotten all about the vest for decades. And I went, oh my God, the vest. This vest is so fabulous.
Brother Wease was just back from Vietnam when the vest was first sent his way. He says his first wife actually wore it to the original Woodstock.
This is the vest. Show the back. Look at all this stitching. And this is definitely, there's a little Woodstock dirt up in there. You know, the hippies love Native American culture, all that stuff. And to have that vest, this was a big deal.
The museum has not determined the origins of the vest, but Pietrkowski's best educated guess is that it was the work of a local Seneca artist in the first half of the last century.
This would have been created by a Seneca artist locally and for the museum collection, and it would have been made with using traditional methods.
Wease says the friend who stole the vest is now dead. He wouldn't name names. But when it was sent to him a second time the other day, he shared the whole story on the radio.
54 years ago, I didn't steal it. I found it. What are you going to do over here? And here I am giving it back.
An old wrong made right a half-century later. It's been about a week now since most college students returned to local campuses as schools continue to keep a close eye on COVID cases.
But RIT is doing it a bit differently. 13 WAM's Natalie Kutchko followed up today on how it's tracking COVID by testing the wastewater. Natalie?
Yeah, Doug and Jenny, well, it's a way to pinpoint where exactly COVID exists on campus and who should get tested. Now, a little more than a year in, leaders at RIT say this method has proven beneficial.
We've got the process pretty solid at this point.
For the last year and a half, a group of scientists at RIT has led the way in detecting COVID early with every flush.
It turns out that people shed COVID RNA in their waste before they ever feel sick, or even if they never feel sick. And so it's really a great way to understand what's going on at the community level.
Dr. Jennifer Schneider says in a year's time, RIT has been able to decrease its campus checkpoints from 15 to 4, where samples are taken, then shipped for testing.
The more you learn about the data you're getting, you understand what's most effective. So we can still sample for the entire community and all of our residence halls by using only a 4 sample set now.
And more efficient. The school now getting test results the same day instead of a 48-hour waiting period. RIT isn't the only campus taking part. St. John Fisher College also conducts similar testing, as do nursing homes across the state. Dr. Schneider says it's a tool that will be used in the days ahead.
We're going to be using this for a while, so we can understand occurrence without having to swab or sample every single individual, and that's powerful. I don't see it going away anytime soon.
And we're told by RIT that likely the biggest finding out of all of this is how it can be applied in other areas of public health. That includes detecting other viruses, even opioid use.
Breaking news, Rochester police remaining on the scene of a deadly shooting. 3 men shot. One of the victims died at the scene.
This is terrible, right? This is horrific. It's 11:30 in the morning on a weekday, right? Kids are around, schools are open. There's schools all along Clinton Avenue here, all along the block here, and there's people shooting outside.
The search does continue for that gunman and a possible motive in that triple shooting. Good afternoon. I'm Jenny Ryan.
And I'm Doug Embledge. The gunfire erupting this morning on the northeast side. 13 Wham's Chase Howell is joining us from the scene with what police are saying now about their investigation. Chase?
Yeah, within the last 30 minutes, RPD investigators just opened up North Clinton Avenue from Avenue D down to Mazda Street. But as you can see behind me, investigators are still working the scene where 3 people were shot today. A police spokesman told me the amount of daytime shootings we're seeing recently is not only horrific, but terrifying. Officers responded to North Clinton and Rialto around 11:30 after people in the neighborhood started calling 911, reporting gunshots. When they arrived, police found 2 men had been shot. One of the victims taken to Strong Hospital with life-threatening injuries. The second victim died at the scene. The third male victim was taken to Rochester General in a private vehicle with non-life-threatening injuries. Police say this part of North Clinton has been a high priority area for some time.
This block of Clinton Avenue certainly has historically had its issues with violence. It is a target location for the police department. And yeah, it's an area that unfortunately does have some history.
At this time, we don't know any of the names of the victims or the circumstances surrounding the shooting.